Yep. Okay, Erev Tov, everyone. Okay, reminder, there will be an opportunity to sell chametz after Maariv tonight. I'll be here all week. So, also tomorrow, just a reminder for those of you who have kids, grandkids, great-grandkids who'll be interested, there's a matzah taking place here at 4:30. These are not going to be kosher for Pesach matzahs. These are just for the experience. So you can come and enjoy that. All right. So one of the most common questions that comes up in Pesach, people often ask, when it comes to mechirat chametz or not mechirat chametz, people want to know about all the things that are not foods that may or may not be chametz, such as medicines. It's a very, very common question, right? Do we have to switch our medicines? Do we have to stop taking our medicines? Do we have to sell our medicines, etc.? So let's understand what is behind the sugya and what one has to do about trufot, about pills, etc. First thing I'll say, people should know there's a difference between owning the pills, or there may not be a difference at all. But there is two separate questions in terms of owning the medicine and in terms of taking the medicine. Okay, if there's going to be a problem. Meaning it might be, even if there is a problem of taking the medicine, it's not like this, pills, tablets that have no taste, that are bitter, there is certainly no prohibition whatsoever to own them, even if they contain chametz. So people, coming and selling their chametz, and they're selling, so we've spoken about, they're selling their food, and they're selling their whiskey, and they're selling their pots and pans, and they're selling the chametz stacked to the pots and pans, and they're selling the kitchen sink, and they're selling the medicines, and the toothpaste, and everything. You don't need to sell the medicines, you don't need, again, that doesn't have a taste. When we get to lozenges and syrups and things which have a taste, that's a different question. But even if they were, the truth is that most of the tablets and most of the medicines nowadays don't contain chametz. But even if they do, I'll say that owning them is not a problem. We'll explain in a moment. It may be, and in many cases, taking them is not going to be a problem either. So he says, this is one of the most common questions. Okay, first things first, if we're dealing with somebody who is deathly ill, and whatever medicine he requires includes chametz, so then he's asked. Pikuach nefesh trumps eating chametz, as it trumps just about nearly every other isur in the Torah. Ulam, what is the question? The question is if we have a chole she'ein bo sakana, so somebody who is ill, again, it's not a life-threatening, but you have regular medication that you take. The question is asked regarding which medicines. Okay, the most common question that comes up is sometimes you have tablets or capsules which use wheat-based starch in order to produce the tablets. And there he says, "Tafkido shala milan nakshot ulegabesh et haglula." Essentially, it's the binding agent that's in the tablet. Again, many tablets today do not use this. So we use cornstarch or potato starch or whatever else, or synthetics. But that does come up occasionally. And the question is that a problem? So he says, if it's made from something else, if it's made from kitniot, for example, en kobaya, there's no problem. Even for Ashkenazim, we have the prohibition of kitniot. Yeah, you're not eating it. Yeah, it's part of the medicine. That is not a problem. He says sugar that's made from different types of grains. So he says like this. First of all, we have to distinguish. First question to ask is, does the medicine have a taste? So if it's tasty, like you have syrups, usually the kids' medicines have got the taste, right? So you have the syrups, or you have the lozenges, etc., the sucking sweets. Then we need to know that it has kashrut lePesach. It has a taste, has a pleasant taste, hopefully pleasant, but that's something that you enjoy the taste of. I remember a couple of years ago, I don't know if it's still the case, but when I was in London, so yeah, you have the akamoli, some of the kids' medicines. There's two flavors. The one is kosher for Pesach, the one isn't kosher for Pesach. But it was a few years ago. There was no kosher for Pesach syrup of the kids' medicine that was available. The only one that was available was the one that had chametz ingredients. So what do you do? So there, what we said the following. Again, it's not going to be a problem to use it, if you need to use it, if the kid's sick and he needs to take the medicine, so then he's allowed to. But you're not allowed to own it because it's chametz in the first place. So what we did was when we arranged that year for the sale of chametz, so we included in the shtar to the non-Jew who's purchasing the chametz. We said, look, amongst all the chametz that you're purchasing, there is also medicine that's involved, and the parents might need to use it over Pesach. Do you give permission that they can go and they can open it and they can use it? And he said, yes, that's fine. There's no problem. They can use the thing. So and that was what we did because there was no alternative. But generally speaking, nowadays you can get the certainly in Israel you can get the syrups that have got the hechsher, and that's okay. But the point is, where there is a taste, so that's something that we have to be concerned about. However, most medicines, certainly most medicines adults are taking, are at least bitter or don't have a taste at all. We're talking about tablets, capsules that you swallow, you don't taste anything. Truth is that there's a question here if this even fits into the category of eating. So Rav Shlomo Zalman says you don't eat a tablet, you swallow a tablet. It's something completely different. Okay, but if we say like this, so essentially we say, starting, it doesn't have a taste or it has a bitter taste, and therefore it's not considered fit for consumption. You know, if you're not sick, you're not going to go and eat the tablets, right? It's not food, and therefore, okay. So certainly this is the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Taf Mem Bet. We're dealing with at worst a tarovet chametz, a mixture that has chametz in it, but it's nifsal me'achila. It's not fit for consumption, and therefore you're allowed to own it. There's no question you're allowed to own it. That's why all the tablets that don't have a taste do not need to be sold over Pesach. You can keep them in your house, and that is fine. What is the question? Okay, so he says, so it's nifsal me'achila, eno yoter din shel chametz, sheken amanu kol chametz shenifsal me'achilat kelev lifnei Pesach, any chametz that before Pesach, before the time when I'm forbidden to benefit from the chametz, becomes blemished to the degree that it's not fit for consumption, so that is not it's not considered chametz anymore in terms of bar yireh or bar yematzeh. That's only if it happened before Pesach. If when Pesach came in, it was fit for consumption, and then it gets burnt or whatever. So that's a different question. So you're allowed to own it. You're allowed to keep it in your house. So now here's the question. Why would I say, even though you can own the tablets, maybe you can't eat them, quote unquote? Because the issue is this. We have a machloket in the Rishonim regarding a din called achshaveh. Achshaveh means something which does not have a status or doesn't have significance objectively, but I subjectively give it significance. Okay, there's a machloket in the Rishonim, and the Shagas Ari has a tshuva about this, and he says the following: the Rishonim discuss if you have bread which is completely burnt to a crisp. It's not bread anymore. It's not even toast. It's burnt. It's nothing. Okay, that is chametz pache psha. That is chametz nifsal machilat kelev before Pesach. You're allowed to own it. Everybody agrees you're allowed to own it. What if you go and eat it? So one school of thought in the Rishonim says you're allowed to own it. It's not chametz. You go and eat it. You're crazy. You're mashuga, but there's no issur. You haven't done anything wrong because there's not chametz anymore. Another school of thought says no. The fact that you go and eat it, why did we say you're allowed to keep it? Because there's not chametz anymore. Because nobody in their right mind is going to go and eat it. But you're going and eating it. You're showing you're not in your right mind. You're showing to you it's significant. That's called achshaveh. You're giving it importance, and therefore it would be forbidden. Okay, that's when it comes to food. The question is, would we say the same thing when it comes to medicine? Would we say the same thing? These true thought. We're saying that it's an nifsal me'achilat kelev. It's not considered fit for consumption. You're allowed to keep it in your home. Again, everything I'm saying now is where it doesn't have a taste. And then you go and you consume it. So the Shagas Arya has a tshuva where he says the minute that you eat it, you consume it. He says there's no difference if you're a healthy person or a sick person. The fact is that you want it. The fact is you consume it, and therefore it would seem according to that tshuva that would be that would be a problem. But nonetheless, many disagree. Many disagree with the Shagas Arya for one of maybe three reasons. First reason is, if you think about the medicines that he was talking about there, so he's probably not talking about the kind of medicines that we have today. Exactly, right? Why do we say a healthy person on Shabbat can't take medicine? Because of the Gzerah of Shchikat Samamanim. Right? Somebody was listening in the Tzurba Shiur 2 weeks ago. So when we spoke about Tochen. Then you had herbs, you had plants, you had whatever, and that was you would grind it up and then you would eat it, but it was still a concoction that you would go and you would eat. Like I said, here you're dealing with a tablet. It's something completely different. It's not food. It never was food. It's not like Rav Shlomo Zalman says. You're not eating it. You're swallowing it. It's something else, and therefore achshavei would not play a role. There's also a very interesting svarai of the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish says the following. He says, even if we say achshavei for a sick person, even if we say that the fact that you are sick and you want to take the medicine, that makes it that you you're giving significance to this food that was not fit for consumption. He says, where is there chametz? Where is the chametz in the tablet? We said normally the chametz is going to be, if it is at all, is going to be in the binding agent. It's the bit that keeps the tablet together. It's not in the active ingredient. So when I come along and I take the tablet, what is the part that I am interested in swallowing? I'm interested in swallowing and consuming the part that's going to make me healthy. I'm not really interested in the part that's just there so that the company can make it into a tablet in a more convenient fashion. You could argue back and you could say, of course you're interested in that, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have the tablet. Okay, but that essentially is the Chazon Ish. So bottom line is, we say like this. Number one, there are many Rishonim and Achronim who say that in the first place there's no din of achshavei. That doesn't exist. Number two, there are those who say that even if we say there is such a thing as achshavei, that's for a healthy person, that's not for a sick person. And number three, even if we say that achshavei applies also for a sick person, maybe it doesn't apply for the tablets that we have nowadays for the various reasons. So bottom line, says Rav Melamed like this. He says, he says, since you are consuming the tablet, you're not showing that you're interested in eating the chametz. You don't want the chametz, but you want the trufa. And at the end of the day, the trufa is bitter, and it's not really fit for consumption. He says there are those who are machmir, and there are those who don't want to have even something that's got a tarovet chametz. One thing he says, he says if it's a safek, if we don't know if there's normally we don't know if there's maybe a little bit of chametz somewhere mixed into this medicine, he says then we can rely on we can add that to the mix, and we can rely on that as well. Okay, all of this applies for a sick person who needs to take medicine. There are those who say, look, if you're a healthy person, you just have a mild headache or something similar to like B'Hilchot Shabbat, and then and that's where you know that the medicine has chametz. So in such a case, better to avoid it. This we find when it comes to vitamins and different supplements. There also often there is more of a problem of chametz in those kind of pills, and there it's a different sugya because you're not talking about a sick person, you're talking about a healthy person, and then the poskim are a little bit more machmir. But bottom line is, at the end of the day, if we have a medicine which is in a syrup or has a taste or has a flavor to it, then you need to check, both in terms of owning and in terms of consuming. You need to check before Pesach that is kosher for Pesach. If we're dealing with 90% of medicine, which is just a tablet or just a pill and it has no taste, most of the time they don't have chametz in them anyway. Certainly if a person is taking even a cholesh ein bo sakana, this is important to say, that a person has a regular medication, heart medication, blood thinners, whatever, things like that, okay, we don't mess around. You carry on taking it, and that's certainly that is mutar, and there's certainly what to rely on. And if we're dealing with other things, so again, most of the time you have all these lists of the medicines, and most of them don't have chametz in them anyway. Even if they do have chametz in them, you can keep them in your house. And if a person is sick, person's really sick, and they need to take the medicine that has no taste and there's no alternative, so then you can still take it, and that's according to most poskim, there is no issue with that. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer Tzakadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakot Yisrael Yifechach Be'alam Torah Mitzvot Shnei Ma'adanei Chavetz Man Tzidko Yagdil Torah B'Yad.